The Comedians. I'm on chapter 4 now. This is the story of a journey on a ship, a cargo ship to Haiti. And the main characters are Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones and Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown is the one retelling the story. Chapter 4. When I saw Jones again, after the interview with the captain, I felt a prejudice in his favour. If he had asked me to play poker at that moment, I would have consented, without hesitation, and gladly have lost to him, for an exhibition of trust might have removed the bad taste which remained in my mouth. I took the port side route around the deck to avoid Mr. Smith, and was slapped with spray before I could dive down to the cabin. I met Mr. Jones face to face. I felt guilty, as though I had already betrayed his secret, when he stopped his walk to offer me a drink. "It's a bit early," I said. Opening time in London. He looked at my watch. It read 5 minutes to 11, and felt as though I were checking his credentials. While he went in search of the steward, I picked up the book he had left behind him in the salon. It was an American paperback, with a picture of a naked girl sprawled face down upon a luxurious bed, and the title was "No Time Like the Present." Inside the cover in pencil was scrawled his signature, H.J. Jones. Was he establishing his identity or reserving this particular book for his personal library? I opened it at random. "Trust?" Jeff's voice struck her like a whiplash, and then Jones came back carrying 2 lagers. I put the book down and said with unnecessary embarrassment, "Sorte Virgiliante. No, Sorte Virgiliane." "Sortes what?" Jones raised his glass, and turning the pages of his mental dictionary, and perhaps rejecting "mud in your eye" as obsolete, brought out a more solemn term. "Cheers," he said. He added after a swallow, "I saw you talking to the captain just now." "Yes." "An unapproachable old bastard. He'll talk only to the toffs." The word had a unique antique flavour. This time his dictionary had certainly failed him. "I wouldn't call myself a toff." "You mustn't mind me saying that. Toff has a special sense for me. I divide the world into 2 parts, the toffs and the tarts. The toffs can do without the tarts, but the tarts can't do without the toffs. I'm a tart." "What exactly is your idea of a tart? It seems to me a bit special too." "It seems to be a bit special too." The toffs have a settled job or a good income. They have a stake somewhere, like you have in your hotel. The tarts, well, we pick a living here and there in saloon bars. We keep our ears open and our eyes skinned. You live on your wits, is that it? Or we die on them often enough. And the toffs, haven't they any wits? They don't need wits. They have reason, intelligence, character. We tarts, we sometimes go too fast for our own good. And the other passengers, are they tarts or toffs? I can't make out Mr. Fernandez. He might be either. And the chemist chap, he's given us no opportunity to judge. But Mr. Smith, he's a real toff, if ever there was one. You sound as though you admire the toffs. We'd all like to be toffs. Or aren't there moments, admit it, old man, when you envy the tarts? Sometimes when you don't want to sit down with your accountant and see too far ahead. Yes, I suppose there are moments like that. You think to yourself, we have the responsibilities, but they have all the fun. I hope you'll find some fun where you're going. It's a country of tarts, all right, from the president downwards. That's one danger the more for me. A tart can spot a tart. Perhaps I'll have to play a toff to put them off their guard. I ought to study Mr. Smith. Have you often had to play a toff? Not too often, thank the Lord. It's the hardest part of all for me. I find myself laughing at the wrong moment. What, me, Jones, in that company, saying that? I get scared sometimes too. I lose the way. It's frightening to be lost, isn't it? In a strange city. But when you get lost inside yourself? Have another lager. This one's mine. I'm not sure I'm right about you. Seeing you there with the captain, I looked through the windows as I went by. You didn't look exactly at your ease. You aren't a tart by any chance, pretending to be a toff. Does one always know oneself? The steward came in and began to distribute the ashtrays. 2 more lagers, I told him. Would you mind, Jones said, if I made it a bowls this time? I get blown up and sort of windy with that too much lager. 2 bowls, I said. Do you ever play at cards, he asked, and I thought that after all the moment had come to purge my guilt. All the same, I replied with caution, poker? He was too frank to be true. Why had he talked to me so openly about the toffs and the tarts? I got the impression that he guessed what the captain had said to me and was testing my reaction, dropping his candor into the current of my thoughts to see if it changed colour. Like a piece of a litmus paper. Perhaps he thought that my allegiance in the last event would not necessarily be to the toffs, or perhaps my name, Brown, had sounded to him as phony as his own. I don't play poker, he retorted, and twinkled his black eyes at me, as much as to say, I've caught you there. He said, I always give away too much. In friendly company, I haven't got the knack of hiding what I feel. Gin rummy is my only game. He pronounced the title as though it were a nursery game, a mark of innocence. You play it? I've played it once or twice, I said. I'm not pressing you. I just thought it might pass the time till lunch. Why not? Steward, the cards. He gave me a little smile as much as to say, you see, I don't carry my own marked packs. It really was in its way a game of innocence. There was no easy means of cheating. He asked, what shall we play? 10 cents, 100? Jones brought to the game his own special quality. He noticed first, he told me later, in what part of his hand an inexperienced opponent kept his discards, and by that means he judged how near he was to a gin. He knew, by the way his opponent arranged his cards, by the length of his hesitation before playing, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent. And if the hand was obviously good, he would often propose fresh cards, in the certainty of refusal. This gave his opponent a sense of superiority, and of security, so that he would be inclined to take risks, to play on too long in the hope of a grand gin. Even the speed with which his opponent took a card and threw one down told him much. Psychology will always beat mere mathematics, he said to me once, and it was certain that he beat me nearly always. I had to have a hand ready-made to win. He was $6 up when the gong went for lunch. That was about the measure of the success he wanted. A modest win, so that no opponent ever refused him the chance to play again. $60 a week is not a big income, but he told me that he could depend on it, and it kept him in cigarettes and drink. And of course, there were the occasional coups. Sometimes an opponent despised so childlike a game and insisted on 50 cents a point. Once in Port-au-Prince I was to see what happened. If Jones had lost, I doubt whether he could have paid, but fortune, even in the 20th century, does sometimes favour the brave. The man was capot in 2 columns, and Jones rose from the table $2,000 the richer. Even then he was moderate in victory. He offered his opponent his revenge and lost 500 and a few odd dollars. There's another thing he once revealed to me. Women, as a rule, won't play you at poker. Their husbands don't like it. It has a loose and dangerous air. But gin rummy, at 10 cents a 100, it's only pin money. And of course, it increases one's range of players quite a lot. Even Mrs. Smith, who would have turned away, I'm sure, with disapproval from a game of poker, sometimes came and watched our contests. That day at lunch, I don't know how the conversation arose, we got onto the subject of war. I think it was the pharmaceutical traveller who began it. He had been, he said, a warden in civil defence, and he had an urge to recount the usual bomb stories, as obsessive and boring as other men's dreams. Mr. Smith sat with a fixed mask of polite attention, and Mrs. Smith fidgeted with her fork, while the chemist went on and on about the bombing of a Jewish girls' hostel in Store Street. We were so busy that night no one noticed it had gone, until Jones broke brutally in with, "I lost a whole platoon myself once." "How did that happen?" I asked, glad to encourage Jones. "I never knew," he said. "No one came back to tell the tale." The poor chemist sat with his mouth a little open. He was only halfway through his own story, and he had no audience left. He resembled a sea lion which has dropped its fish. Mr. Fernandez took another helping of smoked herring. He was the only one who showed no interest in Jones' story. Even Mr. Smith was intrigued enough to say, "Tell us a little bit more, Mr. Jones." I noticed that we were all reluctant to give him a military title. "I was in Burma," Jones said. "We had been dropped behind the Jap lines to make a diversion. This particular platoon lost touch with my HQ. There was a youngster in command. He wasn't properly trained in jungle fighting. Of course, in those conditions, it's always sauve-qui-peut. Strangely enough, I didn't have a single other casualty. Just that one complete platoon. Nipped off our strength. Like that." He broke off a portion of bread and swallowed it. "No prisoners ever came back." "Were you one of Wingate's men?" I asked. "The same kind of outfit," he replied with his recurrent ambiguity. "You spend a lot of time in the jungle?" the purser asked. "Oh well, I had a kind of knack for it," Jones said. He added with modesty, "I have been no good in the desert. I'd have been no good in the desert. I had a reputation, you know, for being able to smell water like a native." "That might have been useful in the desert too," I said, and he gave me a look across the table, dark with reproach. "It's a terrible thing," Mr. Smith said, pushing away what was left of his cutlet. A nut cutlet, of course, specially prepared. "That so much courage and skill can be spent in killing our fellow men. As presidential candidate," Mrs. Smith said, "my husband had the support of conscientious objectors throughout the state." "Were none of them meat-eaters?" I asked, and it was the turn now of Mrs. Smith to regard me with disappointment. "No laughing matter," she said. "It's a fair question, dear," Mr. Smith gently reproved her. "But it isn't so strange, Mr. Brown, when you think of it. that vegetarianism and conscientious objections should go together. I was telling you the other day about acidity and what effect it has on the passions. Eliminate acidity and you give a kind of elbow room to the conscience. And the conscience, well, it wants to grow and grow and grow. So one day you refuse to have an innocent animal but butchered for your pleasure, and the next it takes you by surprise, perhaps, but you turn away in horror from killing a fellow man. And then comes the color question. And Cuba. I can tell you, I had the support of many theocracists groups as well. The Anti-Blood Sports League too, Mrs. Smith said. Not officially, of course, as a league, but many members voted for Mr. Smith. With so much support, I began, I'm surprised. The progressives will always be in a minority, Mrs. Smith said, in our lifetime, but at least we made our protest. And then, of course, the usual wearisome wrangle began. The traveller in pharmaceutical products started it. I would like to give him capital initials like those of the presidential candidate, for he seemed truly representative, but in his case, of a baser world. As a former air raid warden, he regarded himself as a combatant. Besides, he had a grievance. His bomb reminiscences had been interrupted. I can't understand pacifists, he said. They consent to be protected by men like us. You do not consult us, Mr. Smith gently corrected him. It's hard for most of us to distinguish between a conscientious objector and a shirker. At least they do not shirk prison, Mr. Smith said. Jones came unexpectedly to his support. Many served very gallantly in the Red Cross, he said. Some of us owe our lives to them. You won't find many pacifists where you are going, the purser said. The chemist persisted, his voice high with his own grievance. And what if someone attacks your wife? What then? The presidential candidate stared down the length of the table at the stout, pale, unhealthy traveller and addressed him as though he were a heckler at a political meeting with weight and gravity. I have never claimed, sir, that with removal of acidity we remove all passion. If Mrs. Smith were attacked and I had a weapon in my hand, I cannot promise that I would not use it. We have standards to which we do not always rise. Bravo, Mr. Smith, Jones cried. But I would deplore my passion, sir. I would deplore it. And this is the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 I read soonest.